So like one of our posts got like 1.3 million views, but like not that much happened after that. Whereas like I posted a really silly TikTok yesterday on my like personal account about like where French people keep their butter. Oh my gosh. I can't, like, my phone is popping off with notifications. And, like, that has nothing to do with Sylvie. But that created the highest subscribers we've had in a while.
Well, we'll have to clip this into a short for ourselves and see what happens. See if it's just talking about butter generally that does it.
Maybe there's something about butter, yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we're back with the next episode. Today we have Amy Cameron, who is the head of marketing at Sylvi AI. Sylvi AI is a mobile app that helps you learn a new language through conversations. So you can chat with AI pen pals who will kind of correct you when you make mistakes and guide you towards learning a language in this kind of conversational style. And you can also chat directly with the AI tutor to ask any questions kind of as you learn the language. And Sylvi launched in April 2024, so at the time we record this, that's just a bit over a year now, and already has over 1,000 paying customers. They just raised a pre-seed round, so very exciting company and product to discuss. So we'll be talking with Amy about how she thinks about design, growth, and retention. So welcome, Amy.
Nice. Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here.
So why don't we get started by getting a quick overview from you just on your experience and your background and how you ended up working on Sylvi.
Yeah, for sure. So my background is kind of nothing to do with consumer apps. Far from it. I did a law degree at university and I kind of quickly realized that law wasn't going to be for me. But I did a really cool internship on my year abroad at UCLA, which was working for a startup in the kind of direct to consumer space in cookware. And I worked a lot on their marketing and their community. So I was kind of introduced then to startups as a concept. I'd previously done internships in law firms, which is a very different world, and also introduced to marketing. So once I graduated, went straight into marketing back in LA, this time for a real estate company, and then have kind of shifted around different kind of industries, but all B2B. I think while I've been in B2B, I have been chronically online on TikTok, on Instagram. I had my own fashion Instagram. So I was doing B2B marketing, but really kind of spent my life in the B2C marketing world. So that was my background, and how I got involved in Sylvi was basically because I was desperate to learn French. And I was on Duo every single day. But my boyfriend and I went to France, and he kind of gave me a nudge and said, right, go on then, you've got this great Duo streak, speak French. And I froze and couldn't say anything to, waiters at the cafe or like trying to get into our Airbnb. Couldn't say anything, couldn't understand anything. And Tom, who founded Sylvi and is my boyfriend, said, this is mad that you've spent so much time on this app and can't say anything. So that was his kind of spark to be like, right, I can build you something with AI that replicates these kind of interactions so you can practice at home. And kind of felt the pressure to be involved. He was building this for me. So I was like, right, I'll help out. Used my marketing experience, came on board kind of part-time, just helping him out with like, who is Sylvi? I was drawing up this image in my head. So it was all part-time up until about March. And then I am now full-time and head of marketing at Sylvi.
Awesome. I can relate to the Duolingo situation. I have a almost 750-day Polish streak, and when my fiance asks me to say anything in Polish, it's tough, very tough. So I understand it.
I think it's common, isn't it? And like you feel like you're making great progress because you do it every day, and then you're confronted with the realities of speaking a language, and it is terrifying.
Yeah, because you realize then that you know how to say like, the apple is red or those weird phrases they teach you on Duolingo, and
It's,
then when it comes to a real like back and forth dialogue, it's just
I
forget it.
know. How many times have you said that in Poland?
Yeah, exactly. Big fat zero. Cool. So do you want to give an overview of the kind of design principles behind Sylvi as far as like the approach to learning a language? Like what did you do differently? I gave the like very short version, but I think you can give a little bit more detail on what makes it different from apps like Duolingo and why the Sylvi AI approach to learning a language is more effective than something like Duolingo's approach.
Yeah, for sure. So I think because of the way, as I just mentioned, it was kind of like sparked, we realized that learning random words without context, it didn't help you natively speak. It didn't help you go to that country and be able to chat and have regular conversations. Um, and so what Tom wanted to create was basically replicate those natural conversations. And even when you're learning at school, you do a lot of speaking practice, but it's all really bizarre stuff that you would never say in real life. It's like, I love strawberries and cake, and last weekend I went to the beach. And you're like, it's just, it's useful, there's grammar, but what Tom really wanted to do was create something that gave you the opportunity to learn how you would speak if you were in that country. How would you speak to your friends? How would you interact with people? And so the whole app is focused on conversation. So, as you said, we've got these AI pen pals who are just kind of like regular people, well, AI regular people, and you have normal conversations with them. You can chat in your target language and in English. And what happens is the AI will correct that message before you send it. So, if you've used English words, it will translate them. If you've made a mistake or a spelling error, it will highlight that and it will tell you why. So, it will explain all of those corrections for you. You then send that message, you get an instant reply. So it's just like chatting to someone over text. You can translate their reply. You can click on individual words if you don't know them and save them. And you can also listen to the audio. So I think that's a massive thing with Sylvie is that while you can text messages, you can also voice note messages. And like it's that thinking on the spot, being able to put sentences together that is so useful when you go to that country. So we're replicating those conversations. We've also got a social chat element of the app where you can actually just chat to your friends. Again, so it's really normal conversations. You can chat to your friends or other learners, like we've got group chats on there, so you can just kind of talk about things you're interested in. We've got travel groups and music groups and fitness groups. So again, you're talking about things that are really natural to you. And immersion learning is kind of scientifically the best way to learn a language, and that is immersing yourself in the kind of the news of that country and being there and listening to natives and listening to music and having regular conversations. That's really difficult to do if you're like me and you live in London, but you're desperate to speak French. So we wanted to create an immersive app that you could use everywhere and anywhere if you don't have the opportunity to be in the country. So that's our kind of our North Star. And as a user, I'm obviously biased, but it's definitely working a lot better than Duo did.
So for the chat, the kind of back and forth chat feature, like you mentioned chatting with your friends, does that mean like if two friends are learning the same language, they can chat together? Or is it like you can chat in any language and the AI is running translation in between each message as you kind of go back and forth?
Yeah, great question. You can chat to your friends no matter what language they're learning or what level they're at. So, one of my best friends is learning Spanish. She texts me in Spanish, the AI translates it. I see it in French and I text her back. So, I think that was something we learned really early on that what people were missing, they were too scared to talk to natives. There's loads of apps out there that let you conversate with natives, but that's really intimidating if you're not confident. So people wanted to learn with other learners, but they were then having difficulty finding someone who spoke the same language and that they were at the same level. So we eliminated all of that friction by allowing anyone to speak no matter what their language or their level. And it's an incentive, right? If your friends are on the app and you're chatting anyway, why not just chat on Sylvie? And then you feel pressure to reply. So there's a bit of pressure there to kind of keep going.
And also, I mean, when it's set up that way, it makes it more efficient to learn a language because you're already texting your friends anyways, right? So it's like the same time that you'd spend texting your friends, you just spend it now texting them in the language you're learning, and you learn something, and you don't even have to spend like extra time specifically dedicated to learning the language necessarily. Just like you can be living your day-to-day life and sending text back and forth and kind of be learning a language as you go. So it's really cool.
Exactly, yeah.
Awesome. Are there any last things we should touch on just to give the overview of like what Sylvie does, or do you think we did a good overview of that?
We've also got a news feature. So it's like a news feed. You can pick the different topics of news that you're interested in. So like mine is like fashion, world, and politics. And it populates the most recent news. So whereas you might sit and read like BBC News and you'd scroll through it, now you do it in the app. You're reading it in your target language, and you can translate it. You can click on certain words. You can discuss the article with Sylvie, who's your tutor. So again, a really nice way to immerse yourself. We've also got a feature called My Words. Scientifically, all the studies done on language learning is immersion is great, and using something called the spaced repetition method. So we've added that into the app with our My Words section. You can basically save individual words from your conversations with your pen pals or with your friends, words that you don't know or that you keep forgetting. You save them to your own like Weed dictionary. You've got an explanation of the word, you've got synonyms, you've got examples of how the word is used, and then you can test yourself. And the way that we test you is via the spaced repetition method, which is basically learning words in a specific cadence makes them stick better. So it's 2, 3, 5, and 7 days that you go back and learn certain words, and it's kind of proven that that sticks. So it's a really nice way of you learn the words in context during your conversation, and then they're drilled into you by this spaced repetition method on our My Words section. So there's loads of different features that kind of they're all conversation based, and they all weave together really nicely to kind of basically drill home what you need to know.
How does that, how do you get people to come back at those intervals to look at the words again? Are you sending them a little push notification to say, come and review these 10 words or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, push notifications, and it kind of goes on to your point, Jason, about retention, which we can get into, but push notifications are massive, and I would say it's like something we haven't dedicated loads of time to now, but like right now where we're at, yes, you will be bombarded with push notifications about coming back to learn your words and make sure that you hit those markers.
How did you guys decide on like which features to build? Because it seems like you've built lots of different features all at the same time that are like all different ways of going about the same thing, which is learning a language. Like you can have a conversation with a pen pal, you can have a conversation with a friend, you can read the news, you can chat with Sylvi AI as more of like a tutor. So how did you decide like to go broad as opposed to picking one feature, let's say chat, and just like doubling down on that?
Yeah, great question, because the way that it started was just Sylvie, and the very first version of this was Tom built a really awful looking website that was just like a text box and just Sylvie, and I was just having a conversation with her. And I was testing it, one of my friends was testing it in Spanish, and we were like, okay, it would be really great if, we could save words. And so really where all of these different features came from was our early users. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson that we have learned throughout all of this is stay as close as you can to your early users. We were so lucky that when the app launched, we had a group of people who adopted it really quickly and loved it, and we got to know really well. And those are the group of people that have since kind of paved our product roadmap for us. We got to know them well. We got to know why they were learning a language, their pain points, what had they done before that worked, what were they liking about Sylvie, what did they feel like it was missing. So My Words came out of that pretty quickly. I don't know if you guys have heard of Anki, but it's like a flashcard app used for all sorts of things, but people use it for languages. And a lot of our users were kind of flipping between Sylvie and Anki because it had this kind of flashcard. They also use spaced repetition. So we said, let's just build it in app and have a centralized place for people to learn. And again, one thing that came out of these early users was we really want to learn with other learners. We want to learn with people who are at our level. And we said, okay, it's still focused on conversation and actually a really nice way to build our community. So yeah, we were so lucky that we had this group of probably about 50 early adopters that we now know so well. We have a WhatsApp chat with them. Their feedback and how they learn has paved every feature that we've brought in.
Those people, are they ex-Duo users?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, I think our our ideal customer profile is, whenever we talk about the app, people are like, so how are you different to Duo? And we're like, what we're trying to do and who uses Sylvi are very different to Duo users. Because it's almost as if you've like graduated Duo and you've got a base level, you've got some words. Now what you want to do is speak it. And so that group of people had used Duo, were kind of just keeping their streak alive, but looking for other apps that took them to the next level. So they were great because they did our kind of competitor analysis for us, because they'd used every other app and they told us where the gaps were and what they were looking for. And it just meant that we could build something that was directly answering what they were looking for. And it's what we're doing still. We've got a couple of features coming out in the next couple of months that I can tell you guys about, that like our customers have just been like, please build this. Um, and Tom's kind of squirreling away getting it done for them.
So that initial group, I think it's really important because when you're particularly a B2C startup in the very, very early stages, there's this need to find that like initial community of users that actually sticks and uses your product over the long term, or else you just have an app that like people show up, they use it, they leave, and you don't really build that initial base. So like, how did you guys find that group? How did they find you, and how did you keep them on board? Like, when did you make the WhatsApp group, and like, how did that whole process come about?
We were so lucky that it was all a really happy accident, and that's not very useful information for anyone else trying to build an app or a community. But Um, they found us. We ran really early on a creator campaign with an amazing creator called Julia, who learned Spanish on Instagram, and she did a post in collaboration with us that blew up, and we got like the most amount of users we've ever got in a day. And we wanted to find out. We didn't have all the tracking in place that we do now, and we wanted to find out how they found us, because we suddenly got this surge of people. So we basically reached out to people and said, "How did you find us? How are you finding the app?" And we got incredible responses.
Was this via email? You just emailed them?
Yeah, emailed them, and then said to them, we're creating this group of our founding members who have been really helpful and responsive. Like, would you like to be a part of that? You'll have direct access to Tom, who is the founder. Give us feedback at any point. We'll let you know about new features coming out. Kind of, we made it an exclusive group of people that had been so good to us and giving feedback and sharing their thoughts. We were like, okay, we're going to make this like an official group. So that's when we started our WhatsApp. And it was incredible. We got about 50 people, as I said, in that WhatsApp. We got on calls with all of them. So we did customer interviews and just sat with them for an hour, finding out more about them and how they learn and why they're learning. And just creating a close relationship with these people. They become invested in you, you become invested in them, you want to build something for them. And I think just for them also, well, I hope, but having access to like the founding team and knowing that it's us behind, I think like every time someone emails and says there's a bug or like, how do I do this? I email them straight back and I'm like, Tom's going to go and fix this. Like, Tom is the only one that can fix it. He's the only one working on it. And I think people are baffled that like there's three of us on this team. Tom's the only product guy. Tom will go away and fix your bug. And I think that level of kind of like intimacy with our community has really made us kind of get to where we are today. Having users like that go and tell everyone they know about this app, and they're like, I know the founder and I'm in
Right.
this group. And the word of mouth marketing that we got from this group was massive. And then we actually included that group in our onboarding. So really early on, when you onboard onto the app, it was like, do you want to join this WhatsApp group?
Oh, nice.
We got a couple more people in there. As soon as it started to feel like it wasn't becoming as exclusive anymore, we broadened out our community. We then started groups, this is all still in WhatsApp, groups for Spanish, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, all of our languages. And people could join those groups in the community and meet other learners. And this was before we had social chat in the app. But it was just incredible how many people wanted to speak to others learning their language. And so it did happen by happy accident, but I think the one lesson that we take from it is like speak to the people using your app as soon as you've got those initial users, get to know them. What are they looking for? And it's difficult because I think in the early days, someone would say, I want this feature. And we'd be like, oh God, okay, like Paul wants this feature. We've got to go and build it. I don't suggest that. You
Right.
will. Poor Tom was run off his feet trying to build 100 different things. But having then kind of 50, 100 people in that founding group, and we used to send out like polls on WhatsApp and surveys and talking to them, you understand what the kind of the big things are worth focusing on. We're lucky that we still have it. Our founding users are still going, and it really created a platform for us to have this community, which is kind of the core of our app now.
And I think that's really generalizable advice actually to B2C apps generally. It's like it's probably the fastest, most efficient way to immediately increase your retention by quite a bit. Is just in the onboarding, put a link to a WhatsApp group, and then just make sure that WhatsApp group is active and like people are in there and chatting and stuff about whatever it is. I could imagine if this was like a running app for preparing for a half marathon, or and pretty much any B2C app I could think of, the people who are using it on a day-to-day basis, like they'll want to be part of some sort of community, and if they're added to that kind of group where they feel like they're joining and they're a part of something, then naturally like they're going to use the app for longer, and they're going to be more invested in it. So I actually think that's really really good advice generally for B2C apps.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we kind of happy accident that it happened, but once it did, we were like, wow, community is going to be central for what we're building here. And that's why we created social chat. We moved these conversations into the app. We moved these groups into the app. We let other learners find each other. And now they're setting up groups. They've talking to people. They're arranging like meetups in their countries or states. And like to see that community take on a world of its own is incredible. And we looked to apps like Runner and Strava who have done that so well, and kind of made it cool, like made it cool that you're all trying to learn a language, and like that's what we're trying to do. And we're so grateful that we've managed to build this community, and it's growing every day, and it's a real focus for us to nurture that.
I think particularly because you guys are like, because there's this huge incumbent there that everybody kind of knows about, has probably fallen out of at some point. It's like a central thing that everybody is there for. Like, yeah, we're all ex-stewards, we're just trying to actually learn this thing now.
Yeah, 100%. And there's so many different pain points when it comes to learning a language. Mine was I can't string a sentence together in front of a native. It's a confidence thing. Other people, they are desperate to speak to their in-laws. Like Jason, maybe this applies to you, but like you're desperate to speak to your partner or your in-laws, or you're moving to Germany for a new job. That was one of our users. Another one of our users, she works for a charity in Guatemala who teaches kids English, and she speaks fluent English herself. And she said, I wanted to learn a second language to know, like, if I'm teaching English properly. Like, so everyone's like use case for learning a language is different and so unique, but there's so many shared pain points, and commonalities in these communities that people say, oh my God, try this, or like, I watched this YouTube video, it's great, you should listen to these songs, or like travel here, the people were so nice, they were really helped me learn. So yeah, it's wonderful to see, and hopefully great for the users and certainly great for us.
And the chat angle is interesting for that as well, because if I'm learning Polish to speak speak to my in-laws or something, versus someone who's learning German to go move to a new job, versus someone who's, doing charity work or something, you can just chat about whatever it is you want to know how to talk about. You can just chat about that, and you get basically fast track your way into learning specifically the part of the language that you most need. So that's really interesting. So to go further into retention, it sounds like community has been a big piece of it. What are some other pieces of retention at Sylvi? I know you guys have some gamification features. You have the streaks and gems and so on. So let's talk about those. Like, how have you guys thought about introducing gamification and what things to gamify, what things not to gamify, and how has that been impactful on retention?
Yeah, it's gamification is a massive one, and like the whole app stemmed from this godforsaken duo streak that I had that had got me nowhere. Um, and while it hadn't got me anywhere, I was still doing it, and it just shows you the power of a streak. So a streak was the first thing that we implemented in terms of gamification. We needed to give people a reason to come back. And I think Duo really popularized the streak. But I think if you look outside language learning apps or apps in general, streaks are psychologically an incredible thing to keep people going. People doing like dry January, or there's all these athletes that have certain streaks and playing games or scoring. And we did a lot of research into streaks and how Duo uses them, and again, the psychology behind them. There are so many papers out there that show doing things repetitively and like not just 3 times a week, but 3 times consecutively a week will improve your confidence and your dedication to that thing. So streaks were top of our list. Duo have a whole team dedicated to their streak and how it works. But ours is very basic. You go onto the app, you use one part of it, you complete your streak for the day, you've done your language learning.
Is that like any part of it? Like you could send one chat message or you could read one post in the news feed?
Yeah, it's very easy to get your streak.
Okay.
Which again, we kind of copied from Duo in the sense that like people want an easy sense of achievement. Um, and they maybe don't every day. They maybe spend longer on it, but to get that streak, because I remember when I was on Duo, I used to panic if it was like 11:30 at night. I'd be like, oh my God, I haven't done my streak. And you're like, thank God this lesson's only 2 minutes. It's easy to do. So we wanted to make sure that it wasn't too challenging to get your streak. We also introduced a streak freeze, or the opportunity to buy a streak freeze. Again, stolen from Duo, they released a report that said actually being lenient with the streak makes people more motivated, because if you lose your 500-day streak, you're kind of arms in the air.
Yeah, your turn
Where am I
probably,
going?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas if you give people an opportunity, and Duo started with one streak freeze and then added a second, and their results skyrocketed in the amount of daily average users that they got. So we copied the leaders, and you can buy 2 streak freezes. And it just gives people a reason to keep coming back. And Charlie, like you said, we use push notifications and emails to remind people that their streak is running out and put a bit of pressure on them. So streaks have been massive. It's funny right now, there's a lot of controversy around Duo, and we are using that to our advantage. People are trying to move away from Duo because they've said they're AI first, but they don't want to lose their streaks, which is mad. So we've said you can just transfer your streak over to us. So
Interesting.
we're now doing this whole marketing campaign where people are sending us screenshots of their Duo streaks, and then we
Mm,
can move them across to Sylvi. Obviously, we are also an AI app, but I think where we differentiate ourselves is like there's 3 best friends, well, me and my boyfriend and one of our friends behind this app. We are not replacing jobs with AI. We are not,
right,
in fact, we're hiring. So there's a slight differentiation, but it just shows you the power of a streak. Like
right.
people morally don't want to use this app anymore, but they don't want to get rid of their streak. So unbelievably powerful. And off the back of that, we kind of did the basic gamification. We introduced gems, which is like our currency. So as I said, you can buy streak freezes, you can buy more pen pals with your gems, and then you also earn points. Your points depend on what language you're learning. So I'm learning French, I earn croissants. If you're learning German, you earn beer, and those points are reflected in a leaderboard. So again, to just kind of incite kind of competition, and it's great among friends, and you're probably chatting to friends because you're on social chat, you're seeing where they are on the leaderboard. Competition is good and gets people coming back. And it's also nice for us to have something to incentivize the users by. We've done a couple of competitions where we're like, if you're the top of the leaderboard this month, then you get a Sylvi prize. So I think gamification is massive for us, and it is a proven tactic that gets people coming back. I think we want to differentiate ourselves from Duo on the gamification side. Like, our app is not a game, but we want to introduce these gamified elements that retain people and make it not feel like a game. And it's kind of a subconscious that they're like texting more so they can get more points, so they can get to the top of the leaderboard. So yeah, gamification has been a huge part of the app, and a huge part of like where we see ourselves going. What else can we do in the gamification space that keeps the app ungamified but helps us on the retention front? I know, like, for me personally, streak is massive. Like, that's what keeps me coming back. I would cry if I lost my streak, and I can replace my streak. So I mean, it's just absurd.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
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 Are there any big gamification elements that are still missing and on the roadmap, or are all the big things kind of in place and now it's more of a matter of iteration and just, experimentation with the big pieces that you already have in play?
No, I think there is so much more that we need to do on the gamification side of things. It's like a whole piece of work that we've basically got mapped out towards the end of this year, is to dive into what else can we do. What we've got right now is really basic. I think what we want to do is, so we've got these gems. You can do your daily challenge. That's how you earn your gems. The daily challenge, different every day, but it's like read the news today, or chat to a pen pal today, or talk to a friend. Those gems then can unlock either a streak freeze or new pen pal personalities. So we've got like a flirty pen pal you can talk to, a quirky pen pal. But right now, that's all they can do. And people have loads and loads of gems because they use the app every day, which is great. And they've unlocked everything. They've got 2 streak freezes, they've got all their pen pals. So what else can we bring in that feels exclusive, that they can use this currency for? I think there are like endless opportunities with gamification. And I think it is a massive part of retention. So it's definitely a focus for us. We are not finished with just streaks and gems, for sure.
It's interesting. I was just trying to think about some other mechanics you could introduce to, or like things that people could spend gems on. Um, I suppose there's a lot. I was thinking you could, even if you wanted to go really big, you could offer some sort of like, maybe this is more related to leaderboards, but like whoever does the most in Sylvi AI over a certain time frame can unlock or can win like an actual trip to the country of the language they're learning, like these sorts of things.
Yeah, 100%. Like, we've spoken about that as well. And like, in the past we've given, I mean, mediocre prizes. You get a hat with Sylvie on it. But exactly, like, if the stakes were that big, like, imagine how people are so competitive now. Imagine if the stakes were that high. So yeah, there's definitely like the competition element, and leaderboard. I think there's so much scope to really ramp up competition.
That's really cool.
How do you guys think about the notifications and emails and stuff? Because you have so many different, or even like already you have a lot of different gamification elements going on between the gems, the leaderboards, and the points, and the streak. How do you think about like when to send emails and push notifications and not sending too many? Like, or just organizing all of it with all the moving parts that you guys have got in the app.
Yeah, so it's currently all automated, depending on kind of what language you're learning, what time of day it is, what features you've used. We'll send you specific push notifications and emails. I do think for us, again, there's 3 of us, and there are so many things we need to focus on, and we haven't spent loads of time focusing on this. I was reading the other day that the average person gets 46 push notifications a day.
You mean in general or from Sylvi AI?
Oh, no, 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 don't worry, guys. We're not spamming you. We're not spamming you. I think you get one a day for or two a day from us.
Got it.
44 other ones, which is mad. And again, Duolingo have a whole team looking at their push notifications. So it's definitely something that we need to utilize more and make more personal. Because I think if you're competing with 44 other push notifications, how do you make yours stand out? We have one if you haven't completed your streak. We have an email and a push notification, and it's kind of a bit cheeky, a bit like Duo does, a bit like, what are you doing? Your streak's about to run out, like, are you sure? And it's so funny the responses that you get to those emails. Some people are like, I I haven't had time today. I'm so sorry. Like, I just, and then other people are like, this is so rude. I don't have to use it every day. And so it's so interesting. And I think personalization here with push notifications and emails is key. Like, what kind of user are they? What is important to them? If it's not the streak, okay, let's not bother with streak emails. We can have a look at their kind of what they're spending their most time on in the app, and then we target that. So again, I think there's a huge piece of work. I wish we had a whole team on push notifications like Duo, but once we've kind of got some of our new features out for this year and some of our new lessons, or not lessons, sorry, some of our new languages, I think push notifications and emails will be crucial for the retention part.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot as far as streaks and the personalization of streaks because like Duolingo, the folks at Duolingo have said that when they made the change that asked users to commit to their streak, I think they just changed the text on the button, right? It was like
It
next or
was just
something,
their
and they
CTA, yeah.
yeah, and they changed it to be like, commit to this many or whatever. I don't think it was that, but it was some like active, very much an active verb where the user was saying like, I am committed to this, and it made such a huge impact. And on that note, there's other kind of streak related personalization things you could do, right? Because some folks, for example, they might want to learn a language every day from Monday to Friday, but like have their weekends free. And you could try to spend two streak freezes a week, but that might not be like the best way to go about it. So maybe, some folks might just want to have a setting that will let them, say when they onboard, yes, I want to have my streak. Yes, I want you to send me push notifications about my streak, just not on weekends. And so, like these sorts of things. So like, have you guys thought about that? And is that a part of the future plans?
Yeah, I mean, haven't thought about that specifically, so that's a great idea. Thank you. But I think you're right on the personalization front. It's going to be different for every user, and the way that people use our app is so different because we've got so many different features, and they might only come on to use the app and use news, for example. And so it's how do we incentivize them to come back? And maybe it's not a streak, or maybe it's some sort of like news related streak. You need to read X amount of articles a day, a week. So I think it's a whole can of worms that we need to open up because I think our focus at the beginning of the year was funding. Now our focus is customer acquisition. And that's kind of why I've come on board to get more people into the app. Our next focus is retention and how do we keep them in the app. Um, so yeah, definitely our focus in the next couple of months.
The thing that you said about the CTA and how they had such a big impact on doing that, are you guys doing that as well? Are you testing out different bits of text or different button colors and things like that? And if you are, how are you doing that?
Yes, we sure are. Um, Most of the time, it is through our subscription paywall. So we work with Revcat on our subscriptions, and the way that it works with Sylvi is you can use the app for free if you want to use social chat, news, and my words. Those are all completely free features. The paywall will pop up every now and again. If you want to speak to the AI pen pals, a paywall pops up. We offer a 3-month subscription and a yearly subscription. Most of our users choose a yearly subscription. I think our prices have actually just gone up. I was about to tell you how much they were, but I think they've just gone up for the US. But I think it's $80 for the US, which is a yearly subscription, and then it's $9.99 a month for the 3 months. So that's like $30 for the 3 months. So the most testing we've done is with that paywall page. Done a bit of testing with the CTA. We've actually just changed our like headline to see if it makes a difference. And RevCat's great because you can run A/B tests on that paywall. So you can have two live at one go, split your users 50-50, and have a look at the conversion results. We've done tests mostly to do with pricing. We've now changed our wording. One of our biggest tests was we did a Black Friday offer back in November, and we had a 1 week free trial at the time. We have a 2 week free trial now, but we offered up a 2 week free trial for Black Friday and changed our heading Black Friday offer, and our conversion rate from download to subscription went through the roof. And so we're working on another offer right now because offering something or taking money off, changing that banner to say offer made so much difference. So again, there is so much you can test on that small page, and the smallest things make the biggest difference. Even things like having your price as $9.99 versus a month versus like $30 for 3 months. There is so many things that we need to test. It's just kind of like, where do they fit in priority? And making sure that we're like driving enough people to that page to have an accurate test. In the early days, we ran loads and loads of tests. We
Not
were
enough
so
data.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we literally had like 100 people in each test group, and we joined this webinar with RevCat, and they were like, you need at least like 5,000 people in each group to make a definitive answer. And we were like, right, okay, like let's give tests a break until we've got the numbers, but we're there now. So yeah, another thing that definitely needs to happen.
Cool. So let's go into the growth and marketing side, since you head up marketing, obviously. So let's go in there. So how do you think about, like, what's the big high level strategy for acquiring users for Sylvi AI? Because I know there's so many different avenues now. You can go short form video on TikTok, on Instagram. You can do stuff on LinkedIn. You can do stuff on Twitter. You can do stuff all over. You can do podcasts. Like, how do you even start? Where do you begin with this kind of approach?
Yeah, there are just 100 different channels that you could go down, and you could spend so much time on each one trying to figure it out. Um, so for us, we said let's just focus on one channel. That's not to say that we neglect the other ones, but so I came on board full time in March. I spent a week like researching what other apps, other B2C apps, consumer apps were doing, and like what was working for them. Because previously, what we'd done when I was part time was we'd post on Instagram every now and again, and like we'd work with a creator, and then we'd post on TikTok. And it was pretty sporadic, and we were testing like one format at a time. And again, when you're not testing in the right quantity, you just don't have the right results to make a conclusion. So I did a lot of research when I started full time, actually mostly on Twitter. There is like an unbelievable amount of, or X, sorry, an unbelievable amount of information on X that guys that have done this exact thing and seen their apps grow. Jack Fricks, Julia Pintar, there's loads of other people, Jason Eisenberg, like who have written kind of like playbooks almost of how this works, and what they have seen is that TikTok is the way to go. So that's where we started, and basically what we're doing on TikTok right now is testing formats like en masse. So I have 15 different TikTok accounts. Each account has a different format. So one of them is like educational carousels. So it's just pictures, and it's like 60 seconds lessons in Spanish. And then another account is like pain points, and it's like, are you moving abroad but you can't speak any German? I have my own personal account, Amy Learning French, where I'm literally documenting like my journey trying to learn French. And then obviously we have the Sylvi account. So what we're doing right now in terms of strategy, it feels very narrow, but we're learning so much about what goes viral versus like what drives us installs. So we've had a couple of viral posts, but zero installs. We've had a couple of posts that have done like 20K views, but there are hundreds of comments being like, what is this app? Where can I get it? So we're in kind of learning mode right now. And I think the formats really depend on what kind of app you've got and who your users are. But it's making sure that you find those users on TikTok. I spent so much time warming up these accounts, which is basically just like scrolling on the accounts and liking content that is relevant so that the algorithm knows where you're pushing it to. It's like been a mad world that I knew nothing about, and now I obviously spent my whole time in TikTok. When something then does well on TikTok, we reuse it on Instagram, on the Sylvi account. But I think you cannot focus on every channel. I think find out where your users are, find out where there are existing communities. That's something else like Reddit has been massive for us, like joining communities on Reddit, understanding people's problems, telling them about the app, finding these existing communities, finding out their pain points and how to address them. And TikTok has been our focus right now. Then we'll be going to like creators and UGC, and kind of the strategy is get our name everywhere. And I know that sounds really broad, but it's kind of a quantity game right now. We are still very young. I think when I first came on board, I was like, oh, I need to do all this brand work. Like, we need to build the Sylvie brand. When you are this young, nobody knows who you are, nobody cares about your brand. Just get your name out there, get people to understand and get people into the app. The app is our brand. And once they're in there, they'll understand what we're about and what we look like and who we are. But it doesn't matter right now on socials. You just want people to know your name. So we're working with a lot of UGC creators. We want to be really careful about who we work with because we do think it's important that they are legitimately learning a language and using the app. We've worked with some really great creators in the past, as I said, who have their own language learning communities that we're tapping into, and then tapping into places like Reddit, Discord that have these existing communities. So that's a kind of right now strategy. And then where we want to go and what we're looking forward to is going to be partnerships. I think it's going to be a massive part of our growth strategy. Because we have this incredible community, what we want to do is tap into other communities and partner with language exchanges. For example, I went to my first language exchange a couple of weeks ago, which was terrifying, but incredible because it was this group of people at a pub in London that you have a badge on and it says like, I speak English, but I'm learning French. You go and find someone else that's either French or learning French. And again, it's this community of language learners and just like tapping into them and telling them about the app and getting them on board and meeting them and understanding them. We also want to do the same thing with like universities and university students learning a language and university students doing a year abroad, and how can we tap in to those communities. We've done a trial with a school in a kind of B2B way, and we've kind of testing with a French class in a school, and we want to continue that side of things. This is further down the line, but I think partnerships for us, once we've nailed our organic socials, partnerships is our next step. Can't forget paid socials. Meta ads has been one of our like biggest drivers of downloads, especially when you work with a creator. You can do partnership ads on Meta. I went to a talk with Meta the other day, and they were the first people to put their hands up and say, your ads will do so much better if you work with creators and do partnerships.
So that'll show up in the feed as a like partnership between Sylvi AI and some particular influencer.
Exactly that. You're tapping into like an existing community where they trust and they know this creator. It then Meta then pushes that ads out to similar people in their community. So you're at a kind of head start because you are targeting the right people. And I think if Meta say it themselves, you're like, okay, we're listening, like, let's do it. Organic and paid are so different, and we're kind of discovering that as we go. What works really well on organic TikTok would not work well as a paid ad on TikTok or Meta. So organic, paid, and partnerships are our three biggest kind of avenues. we're working on organic right now. We are bringing in a creative director in June, which is super exciting. I actually used to work with her, and she's kind of she is a self-professed Gen Z expert, and we're really bringing her in to kind of work on Sylvi and work on Sylvi as a brand and do that next step, but also just drill down on our organic and like who and what formats are working for us. So really exciting to have another marketing person on board. I won't be a lone ship anymore, and I think just like doubling our output, like we're just learning so much from what we're doing right now. So yeah, really exciting.
On the organic side, how do you measure, like, if you're posting on 15 different accounts on TikTok, how do you actually know who's installing the app from which ad, right? Because don't people just like see the, watch the TikTok and then go and search directly in the App Store? Or is there like a way they click a direct link so you can kind of track them that way?
So yeah, it's a good point. So on the Sylvie account, we have a one link in our bio that people can click on, and we track all the conversions from that one link. For all the other accounts, they just say Sylvie in the bio. So there's no link or anything. So people have to then go to the App Store and download the app. And while there's a bit of friction there, we are getting more downloads from TikTok than we are Meta, where we're paying for downloads. So
But are
it's
you
not,
able to distinguish between like which format is actually driving installs, or can you both basically just see which format is getting the most views? Because if everyone's kind of going to the same place manually on the App Store, then can you like link that back somehow to figure out how they heard about you, or is
yeah.
it tough?
So we have self attribution on onboarding,
Okay.
so people say where they heard from us. Unfortunately, we can't see which
Which
ad
account?
it is, however, or not ad, sorry, which post it is. However, I have a pretty good idea that like so yesterday we posted one, for example, and about 10 minutes after I posted it, we got like 15 new trials.
Yeah, you can tell from the timing probably, right? If you stagger the posts, then you
Yeah,
can kind of see. Yeah.
exactly. And another thing, we try to, as soon as people come on and start a subscription, add them as friends, talk to them. Where did you find out about us? And like we're still, it's such a manual process, but I cannot stress how insightful it's been, for myself or Sam to be talking to people in the app and like where they've come from, how long have you been learning, what post was it that you found us from. So we are still doing a bit of that, not as much as we were at the beginning. Just there's we've got more people, which is great.
Right.
Um, but right now we're just assessing by like the engagement on the posts. So like one of our posts got like 1.3 million views, but like not that much happened after that. Whereas like I posted a really silly TikTok yesterday on my like personal account about like where French people keep their butter, like you keeping your butter in the fridge or you keeping your butter on the side. Oh my gosh, I can't, like my phone is popping off with notifications. And like that has nothing to do with Sylvie. I do not mention Sylvie in that once. In my bio, it says marketing at Sylvie.
Mm.
But that created, like yesterday, we had one of the most, like the highest subscribers we've had in a while. So it's a really bizarre, I think TikTok is a minefield, and virality doesn't necessarily lead to installs, and it's about finding out what posts or what formats of content are leading to installs, and then how do you do more of them? How do you get more UGC creators to do that exact format? How do you get university students on board to create accounts just for Sylvie and post every day? And we're in that discovery right now, but it is bonkers. You could post a post one day and it gets 1.5 million views, and then you could do the same post 2 days later and it gets 10. So it's crazy, but it's been fascinating, and there's so much information out there about what's working, so much information about formats. The number one thing they say is just copy your competitors. What are your competitors doing? What's gone viral for them? Redo it. And they actually say like don't mention the app. Have hashtag the app and have the app's name in your bio, but when it doesn't feel salesy, like TikTok or TikTok users hate to be sold to, they're on there to doom scroll. They do not want to think about anything. They do not want to be sold to. So don't kind of have loads of space between the content you're putting out and the app, and you just have to hope that the path that they follow leads them to the app somehow.
In some ways, we're doing all this thinking and all these different accounts, making all these posts, thinking, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And then just the next day, you can post something so silly. It always seems quite like annoying that
Oh,
you've
yeah.
done all that work for nothing, and then just been
Like, I
like,
cannot believe I said, "Where do you guys keep your butter?" Which was a genuine question because I'd seen this French guy talking about how like you cannot keep your butter on the side, like that is disgusting. And I was like, I thought that was really French. That's why it's so salty. Like, genuine question. This was my personal account too. This is just like my French learning journey. And for that to blow up, you never know. You just never know. And it's often the posts that you spend the least amount of time on that will do the
yeah,
best.
yeah. Well, we'll have to clip this into a short for ourselves and see what happens. See if it's just talking about butter generally that does it.
Maybe there's something about butter, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, ask the people. Maybe Jason, you ask Polish people where's their butter at.
Yeah, maybe it works.
Yeah.
Um, on the topic of UGC, like, how do you guys think about structuring that relationship? Are you going after affiliate relationships with UGC creators? Are you paying them some kind of flat amount to just post about Sylvi AI on a regular basis? Is it something even more kind of organic where maybe they get just free access to the app itself if they do some promotion? Like, how do you guys organize that?
Very timely question because we've just launched our affiliate program. So right now, we're just getting ourselves set up with a couple of creators who are in the language learning space. Not even necessarily UGC creators, but just people posting about their own language learning journeys and are using the app as well and have said, like we'd love to work with you. So we've just set up that program. And the creators will be paid depending on how many people subscribe to the app. After they've posted, they will have their own kind of trackable links. So that is kind of in the midst of launching, which is super exciting. And again, we really just want to work with people who are using the app. It's literally in the contract to be like we'll give you a discounted subscription, but like use it every day because we want all of that content to be authentic. We don't want people to be talking about us and like they can't speak a word of French or Spanish. We have worked with UGC creators in the past on just like content that we've then used for ads, which has been really great. And they know what they're doing, they know what hooks work, they know how to edit the videos. And I think it's also really nice to have a different face than mine. I think people are probably fed up. Even all my family are like, "You're filling my feed with your ads and your posts, like, just you." And I was like, "Can you like them then?" I'm not seeing the likes coming in. But so I think affiliates will be huge. We will continue to work with UGC creators on content that we can then use for paid ads because that's worked well for us in the past. And then one thing that we're working on right now and that I've seen work really well for other consumer apps is working with UGC creators who then create like a second account that's dedicated to Sylvi and then post whatever content I decide is working best. Post that content from their account. And then you pay per post and you can give bonuses depending on how many people it reaches. So that's kind of, we're planning for that right now and planning on how to do our outreach, how to find the right people. Really keen to work with university students who are learning languages and want like a bit of a side hustle. So there's kind of three different ways that we are and we will be working with UGC creators. And I think across all of them, like authenticity for us is key. There's a lot of like AI UGC creation out there right now. And it's great, it's cheap, you can pump it out quickly. But what we've seen work best for us is when people who have used the app and are actually learning a language talk about their experience. You can tell. So that's the path that we'll continue to go down.
Cool. All right. So looking forward to the future. What's next? What's across the horizon for you guys?
Yeah, we're a really, really exciting time. As you said at the beginning, we're just closing out our pre-seed round. I started full time 2 months ago, and now we're bringing on someone else in marketing in June. So things are really starting to ramp up. Customer acquisition is our number one, and as I said, our marketing strategy is kind of our focus. Although Tom is kind of just on the hamster wheel of product in the background and has been creating some incredible new features. So we've got lessons coming out imminently, and our lessons are again conversational. So it's you talking with Sylvie, but you're on talking on a specific subject and she's quizzing you on things. So it's like having a one-to-one tutor through the app. All the lesson plans are personalized, so you kind of input what subjects you're interested in or why you start learning the app, and then we produce this personalized lesson plan for you and you work through those lessons with Sylvie. So that is imminent, which we're so excited about. Again, this came directly from our users who wanted like more structured learning to see their progress. We've got loads more languages coming out. Again, in the next month or two, we should have a whole host of new languages. We started with the 5 core European languages, but as AI has kind of got better and better and learn other languages, we've now got the scope to kind of release this to so many more people, which means we can go to market to hundreds of new countries, which we're so excited about. So that's literally in the next 6 months, and then looking on to next year, we'll be going for more funding. We'll be bringing on more product people, more marketing people, and looking into that kind of partnerships angle of things, working in schools, universities, and other communities. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. And of course, gamification. We cannot forget our gamification. We will be, without a doubt, kind of focusing that on that in the second half of this year to make sure that, you know, all the people that we get into the app don't go to waste and we keep them in there and keep them using it. So yeah, really exciting next 6 to 12 months for Sylvie.
So anyone who's learning a language, Sylvi AI, you know where to look. And I think I'll actually start using this for Polish because, like you're, I mean, you explained at the beginning, but for people who are graduating from Duo, right? It's like you've done Duo, it's built the habit, you've got your base level vocabulary, you can string together a couple of sentences, but you're ready to actually learn it. That's kind of where I'm at with Polish. So I
Nice.
think I think that's my next step.
Huge. Well, let us know what you think. We are always looking for feedback.
Will do.
Thanks so much, guys. That was really good fun.